sorry, I had to collect myself. Ladies and gentlemen, this is VNs Now. My name is JP III, and it is a high honor to once again return to Suzerain. And I'm pretty sure that's not the proper way to say that. If you've been following the channel for a long time, you know that one of my favorite games of the past few years has been this game. An absolute masterclass in storytelling, character building, atmosphere, world building, pretty much anything you could want from a narrative-based game, you got it right here. And somehow, some way, the demand for this game has only grown. It has been almost 2 years, I think, since its initial release. Maybe a little over 2 years. It has only gotten more popular. The demand for content has only gotten bigger. We know that the next game from Torpor Games will be based in the Suzerain universe. It'll be based during the sort of Civil War. We know that there's going to be DLC content coming. The Rizia DLC, and I just completely notched that one up. Excuse me. There we go. Back to the game. I thought it was going to open there. It did not. But the Rizia DLC takes place in this part right here. Alone, maybe the same timeline, maybe not. Still a lot to learn, but I can't say I'm not looking forward to it. So, despite the extensive, I think, 14 to 15 hour playthrough we did of it before, we are back for another term. Let me go ahead and read that. I think we're done with that for now. No answering the phone, at least for the moment. I haven't decided yet what way we're going. I have done, I think, in my humble opinion, the definitive capitalist centrist playthrough. At least as far as I'm going to do. I don't think it's going to get any better for me. But that leaves the millennialist run, the communist run, or the autocrat run. So I'm still figuring out what I want to do, and just this 2.0 release has so much in terms of accessibility, in terms of content, new storylines have been added, more brutish content apparently, dealing with the minority situation in Sordland. So there is a lot here to dig into. So, and we know just from the initial playthrough that it's going to be a couple of hours before we really make decisions that will define our term. So we have a little time to really kind of sit back and breathe in all the changes. But I'd love to hear what you think. Let me know if you've watched the first playthrough. There will be a link somewhere on that first playthrough. And if you watched that first playthrough, let me know what political leaning you were interested in seeing. I will probably make up my mind regardless, but I would love to know your thoughts. All that preamble aside, let's get into it. Second term, although it's technically not the second term. It's the first term all over again, but we are back. So, for the million currently in recession, we are a major regional power. Torpor mode enabled. This mode disables manual saving and enables achievements. You can only turn it off after completing the story mode once. That has not changed, which is probably for the best. Let's get it. Look how big the world is. If you go to the Torpor Games website, which I'll also include somewhere around here, and see their merchandise, there are maps of this world. And there are so many, like, they can make material for this world for the next 15, 20 years. They can literally do an extended universe. There's just so much attached to this universe. It's just so well done. 1908, you open your eyes to this world you came from. We'll start off poor this time around. Just because if I go one way or the other, I'm sure that'll make a difference. Your parents named you Anton. As the only child of a farmer, you spent your childhood among wheat fields. Life was not easy. You were too poor to afford a good education. The Rayne family was caring regardless of the The Rayne family was caring regardless of the economically dire situation. Your parents always did their best to support you. During a history class at school, the bell started to ring unexpectedly. There was a loud commotion outside. As everyone tried to figure out what was going on, the principal announced the historic revolution. The kingdom was no more. The Republic of Sordland was born. We were somewhat worried. After graduating, you passed the university exam with high marks. Even though your family was poor, the public education system made it possible to go to university. You had the opportunity to choose between several studies. We were involved in economics the last time. This time we'll go with law. During the first year, you attended a lecture from David Vesey. He was a well-known diplomat from the Foreign Ministry and son of the president. After observing the hall in silence, he explained how the Supreme Court is obstructing justice in Sordland. He stated that laws should be applied fairly, and that even members of the Supreme Court are subject to the same laws. Now, considering what we know about the Supreme Court, it's funny, this is 1926. They will continue to be a nation up until 1954, depending on your political persuasion and what you're able to do. That's 30 years and probably longer of basically an aristocracy having a say in the government. Amazing. Soldiers entered the campus in the evening ahead of the first election. Many were in shock as the uniformed men created security cordons and started arresting the teachers. A group of students started to gather and protest. Along with your best friend Peter Vector, you decided to, well, I guess we don't have access to the dictionary or the encyclopedia yet, the codex. We protested. One of the officers made a loud announcement that echoed through the campus. General Lutheran declared martial law in order to restore the administration. Please stand back and disperse to your rooms. You joined the students that slowly marched towards the large group of soldiers. The student fell and was trampled as everyone started running away. We're gonna be dumb. The soldiers beat you relentlessly. The arrested teachers were replaced by those that promoted conformism to the state. Holsworth turned a blind eye to the things that were happening. You didn't want to stay idle and decided to join, we'll go with a human rights group. The group heavily protested against the deteriorating human rights situation in Sordland. You contributed in thorough discussions on how to protect and expand freedoms. I've had this channel for almost 10 years now, and I still can't English. Amazing. In one of the meetings, Peter Vector introduced you to a classmate of his, Monica. You're immediately attracted to... Some things never change. She mentioned to you that she was a volunteer for the Swedish League of Women, an organization campaigning for women's rights. You can be a dick right off the top. The politically charged environment led you to... I feel in this particular situation, since we joined a human rights group and protested, we wouldn't join with the nationalists. So it would be understandable if he was a socialist at this time. Sorry, I had to make a mild adjustment there. The radio relayed that the Communist General Rickard surrounded Lutheran and his troops, demanding their surrender. They refused and heavy fighting broke out across the country. You just couldn't believe it. The army was fighting amongst themselves. Rickard's sudden attack caused more instability in the country, but compared to the fascist Lutheran, he was a real socialist. This convinced you to participate in a support march. You were chanting, freedom, equality, and solidarity. Let's go. You were marching under the protection of Rickard's soldiers. The students supporting Lutherans coup gathered a few hundred meters in front of you. Many nationalists were among them. You knew something was going to happen. There was a massive clash between the two sides. Soldiers began to beat the students. Tanks started rolling forward. In this chaotic moment, you saw a young girl about to get run over by a tank. Oh god, they added sound effects to this. But you couldn't reach her in time. The clash has escalated into a full-blown civil war. The horrors made you isolate yourself for a while. Monica helped you cope, and love grew between the two of you. However, it was a difficult time for love. The charismatic Colonel Tarkin Saul orchestrated a sudden attack on the capital where the Lieutenants and Rickard's forces were battling each other. He defeated both, ending the war. A new constitution was written, and the military government began efforts to restore stability. Many people saw the Colonel as a savior. He formed the United Sordland Party and ran as the presidential candidate in the first ever single-party election. USP won the election by a large majority. The military government announced a 4-year restoration period to transform to an entirely civilian government. After graduation, you kept seeing Monica. You were both interested in marrying and starting a family. However, a letter arrived from the military calling you to fulfill your compulsory service. It seems like they may have I don't think they completely redid the soundtrack, but it feels like there's more of an orchestra or orchestrated feel behind it. It feels so much heavier now. I don't know why. I'm gonna have to probably ask somebody. Like, did you guys just take this music and go to an orchestra and say, here, go for it? It's just, the breath behind it now is amazing. A devastating civil war broke out in a neighboring country, Valen. It quickly turned into a proxy war between regional and world powers. The distinguished Major, Joseph Lancia, ordered you to lead your squad on a border patrol mission. It was a very cold winter when you began marching outside the government outpost. After several hours of marching through the snowy hills, distant noises were heard. Visibility was too low to confirm the source, so the squad crawled forward in formation and found a spot to observe. A group of refugees had made it beyond the border fence. You escorted them back because they're going to go back anyway. The refugees were in despair when you realized that you were taking them back to the border. Screams and protests ensued as they were restrained. You delivered them to the border guards, and they probably didn't make it at all. After several months of military service, you went back. You and Monica decided to share your lives together. After receiving the blessing of her parents, the ceremony was held in Holsor. During the same year, you were offered a high-paying job within the governing United Sordland Party. It was important to start your career on a good foot, so you accepted it. You became the legal assistant to one of the more experienced members of the Assembly. You worked long and hard, going through hundreds of pages of legal documents late into the night. Climbing the ladder. Tarkin Saul gave amnesty to the remaining factions of the Civil War and chose de-escalation and appeasement. The institutions and symbols of the former kingdom were slowly replaced. His government launched several new initiatives, such as a citizen fund bills program to revitalize the economy, a social labor initiative to help build and improve society, and a large dam project to solve the energy crisis. The first multi-party elections in the history of Sordland were held. 1934. The ongoing legal battle between the Justice Ministry and the Supreme Court put you under a lot of stress. But your significant contributions to the legal case triggered an invitation to meet President Tarkin Saul himself, who offered you a key position. You were to become the youngest member of Assembly. As the youngest MP, it was difficult to connect with the influential inner circle. You needed allies, so you brought on Peter Vector as your right-hand man. The birth of your son provided a brief moment of joy and relief. Yeah. Along with Peter Vector, you did great things to cement your position within the party. Meanwhile, at home, Monica and Frank felt your absence. At the same time, President Saul increased his authority over the years. His growing ego started to cause strife within USP. Fourth election win. Fifth election win. President Saul barely secured a majority in the election against the opposition leader. Over the next year, the Swedish people grew increasingly discontent with corruption and the worsening quality of life. Meanwhile, calls for a united Sordland Party Congress became louder as the leadership struggle started to brew. You gave your support to Elwald. I never know how to pronounce this dude's name. Elwald Alfonso, a reformist and talented business magnate, who was the main contender for party leadership. Meanwhile, in a desperate effort to secure votes before the Congress, President Saul was meeting party members one by one, but he didn't approach you. The Congress was nothing short of impressive. The banners of the United Sordland Party were decorating every possible spot. Thousands of influential party members, lobbyists, and benefactors gathered for this turning point. The voting for party leadership began. The efforts bore fruit as the contentious leadership vote was won by Elwald Alfonso. I will never pronounce his name correctly. During the Congress, Sarkozy announced he would retire from politics at the end of his term and appointed Alfonso as vice president. He knew the structure he had established was to stay. The country had become increasingly authoritarian. Maybe one of them going, but not quite like this. A month later, your daughter was born. Monica named her Diana. She motivated you during a tumultuous period within the party. As the VP and the leader of the USP, Elwald Alfonso began dismantling the old organizations and structures established by the USP, such as the State Education Corps and the Sordland State Corporation bills. The general election was approaching. The United Sordland Party was The United Sordland Party was under new leadership. We supported him anyway. 1949, during the general elections, the main opposition leader was embroiled in a sex scandal with his secretary. He was replaced by the more popular figure, Franz Richter, but the damage had been done. The new economic policies and extensive privatization program proposed by Elwald Alfonso secured an election victory for the United Sordland Party. Over the following years, you did your best. That's to make it a better place. The presidency of Alfonso saw many bold reforms in government and law and advancement in liberal democratic values. He valued your support throughout. However, due to infighting and disorganization, continental economic tensions, and fast-track privatization, it was followed by a severe economic recession. The other parties announced their bids for the 1953 election, but the unfair election system hampered opposition efforts to campaign. Repeaters helped your presence in the USP group. The two of you worked long nights together. You flipped opponents to your side. You became the face of a new wing of the party. Step by step, and with adequate planning, your wing took over the leadership as President Alfonso lost control of the party. The moment had come. The moment to make a move had come. You quietly advised him, like, dude, it's over. He listened to your advice. Alfonso conceded the leadership struggle, and the party eventually voted you in because of your indisputable influence. Following this, you announced that you would be running for president in the general election with Peter as your running mate. Rise of Rayne. I'm glad they kept the speeches. There's got to be a wiki or somewhere that explains what language that is, but I'm glad they kept that. 1953, after visiting every city and town during the campaign, you made a speech on state television. You promised to enact democratic reform, which could be a lie, depending on how I decide to do that. The people are tired of empty promises. We need fundamental change in our institutions and government. A solid and transparent democracy awaits us. Brothers and sisters, a new constitution and a new age is upon us. Broadcast ended. That may have been like a whole lie now that I think about it, because I did not make up my mind all the way. Election day, millions went out to cast their vote. Chapter 1. We're in. I think we'll keep his classic look. We'll add a bit more style, but I don't think we need to mess with it too much. With the grand suit. I actually have a suit like this. Don't look into that too deeply though. Fish here is amazing. I think we'll keep the default. Oh no, hold on. What was it, Theorist? That's pretty awesome. I think I like Theorist. Let's go with that. And then Anton Rayne, you made consequential promises to the people of Sordland to gain their votes. For now, and we can... I don't know. We'll say plan, at least for the moment. How about that? We'll stay neutral for now. Toughen and motivation laws that will focus on health. Two weeks have passed since we won the election, and now I was about to be sworn in as the fourth president of Sordland. Okay. 2 weeks have passed since we won the election. I'm going to reread some of this because I had to pause and adjust my seating arrangement. And now I was about to be sworn in as fourth president of Sordland. Thousands were watching the inauguration ceremony and cheering my name, Anton Rayne. The die was cast. The die was cast, and there my story began. In the distance, the maroon palace stood on top of the famous Hill of Pride. I had no way of knowing what future awaited me there. Oh, I love the new codex. Everything just kind of snaps into place now. Nice. The Hill of Pride. Love it. So how much information do you get off the top? A fair bit. It looks like you get all the same information off the top, it's just more manageable. So Waldo, the most communist member of our cabinet, other than possibly me. I think what I'm going to do is I think there is some value in promising democratic reforms, at least for right now, and finding a way to maintain a planned economy. If I can do that, then I can kind of slip into either a communist or an autocrat and just rig the election, more or less. Hey, I promise more electoral power, and people can have somewhat of a say, but I get to decide what they say, sort of thing. We'll see. These are all I don't know exactly what the game has in store for me, so to say one way or the other, I know what I'm about to do is incorrect, to put it mildly. But we'll see what we can do. Right. I looked at my family. My son and daughter, Frank and Deanna, were next to Monica, my wife. Her eyes glimmering with pride. Okay, this is more than I thought. She had a degree in sociology and worked as a social worker and later as the partnership manager in Magnus Cartus, a young NGO formed in the Alfonso period. aims to make Sordland a more democratic nation by introducing a new chart of rights. Okay, so that was not in the first version of this game. It's Clayman. Interesting. Then I turned towards the key people who made it all possible. Of course, each individual was promised an important position in my government. I saw my previous rival and former president, Alfonso, who gave me a slight nod. Tarkansas was also invited, but I suspected he didn't leave his island retreat. As my thoughts slowly faded away, the reality of the situation dawned on me. Orson Haka, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, was waiting for me. Time for the oath has come. I am ready. Please repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I will respectfully execute the office of the President of Sordland, and to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the people and the Constitution of the Republic of Sordland. You may now deliver your inauguration speech, Mr. President. My fellow swords, the crowd looked eagerly to listen to me. For many generations, this country and its long history has kept us tied to an idea, the idea of unity, and our people's right for a free and prosperous life. Our workers are no less productive than a decade ago. Our capable minds are no less inventive. Our products and services no less requested than they were last week, last month, or last year. I promise you, we will stop the recession and eliminate poverty. Change now, not in the next decade or years, today. Hundreds of thousands cheered. They were shouting my name in unison. I felt the responsibility, the power, and the burden all at the same time. I waved at the crowd, which made the people cheer louder. I took a long look at the people of Sordland to burn this moment into my memory. One of the presidential guards came by to notify me that it was time to leave. I made my way to the leading car in the motorcade. The presidential state car was a jet black Cadelia with flags of Sordland above the front headlights. Next to it, a man was holding the door. Hello, Mr. President. I still felt euphoria from the aftermath of my speech. Hearing my new title made me smile even more. If you allow me to introduce myself, I'm Sergey, your new driver. And he's Sergey. As you wish, Mr. President. He respectfully bowed his head before opening the car door and gesturing inside. I entered the car. We will be heading towards the palace. The motorcade began to move. On the way, Sergey proceeded to explain his duties as a driver. As minutes passed by, I found myself lost in thought again, barely paying attention to what he was saying. He suddenly gestured out the window. Isn't it a beauty? The Maroon Palace. He was right. Sunlight glinted off the palace's many maroon-colored domes. It was so bright I had to look away. Every time I look at it, I am reminded of my duty to this nation. So do I, Sergey. It's the beating heart of the nation, after all. Well said, Mr. President. The car drove past the majestic gates, continued uphill to the entrance, and stopped in front of the doors. Sergey got out of the car and opened the door for me. Have a great day, Mr. President. I'm on a vest corps. He referred to the famous sword phrase from the times of the Revolution. Still a little tongue-tied. Amorgna Vescor, Vectin Sista, which meant morning will come, victory's core. Vectin Sista. I made my way upstairs through the extravagant corridors of the palace. Marble and engraved wooden finishes decorated the interior. My footsteps echoed in the colossal halls. The guards bowed their heads in respect as I opened the massive doors to my new office. A lot just kind of... The map is huge! It was not this... It was not this big before. We didn't also have that picture of the family before on the desk. Everybody's looking rather appropriate, I must say. I guess you could click on the newspapers now. The land reports. We have a radio? What? Hold on, does this actually work? Oh, okay, this is, doesn't work like that. Let me take that back. The cabinet ministers, let's see. The different factions. Parliament. There's a lot more here than last time. Or at least in terms of leadership. So, you know you have your regulars. Gloria, Franz, Khazar, Kibner, Nazi. The different wings of USP. Bernard Circus, who's the spokesman for the independents. Remus Holstrom. I don't remember him from the last time. Manoli Sohail, I do kind of remember because we were working closely with friends and she didn't like it. I remember her from a newspaper. Who's this guy? Member Assembly and founding member of the Nationalist Front Party. Okay, so he's a Nazi. Fair enough. Holstrom is allegedly one of the soldiers who worked under General Lutheran that helped establish the Young Swords. He believed to have been active within the organization during the Sword Civil War. He was blamed by the Blue Freedom Party and the Communist Party of Sordland for having been behind many of the atrocities that took place against the Bluish and the Communists between 1927 and 1930. So he's a war criminal on top of it all. Lovely. He has denied such claims and hold no official membership position in the Young Swords. Lovely. Something to keep in mind. Let's clear out of there. Let's see. The music definitely got a huge upgrade. It sounds like it already sounded great. The soundtrack was one of the easily one of the highlights. It sounds amazing now. Occasion Treaty Organization, which I'm guessing is going that way. Here's United Cantana to the east. Event information. Okay, so there's two maps. Okay, nice. So we have the foreign policy map. Codex is the codex, and then we have kind of our regional map. Lovely. Prime Minister Van Horten congratulated us on our election and praised our party's stance on just and transparent elections. He signaled his wishes to continue the trade partnership between our countries as equal partners, as opposed to earlier trade deals where he believes gave Sordland unfair advantages. We'll see if we can do that. Chancellor Hegel said his congratulations on your great victory and wished for close cooperation between our countries in the future. Hegel signaled concessions from Swaziland in case of a promising trade deal. He also congratulated the Swedish democracy for the successful elections and warned us about the threat Arcasia's growing influence poses for Eastern Mercopa. So Lesbia is... the map is... this is just so well done. Prime Minister Alvarez congratulated you for the results and spoke about his hopes to have a beneficial partnership deal in the future. He sent his best wishes to the Swedish people and warned us about the threats of the encroaching millennia of its influence of United Cantana from the east, emphasizing the importance of unity in our continent, Marcopa. President Smolak sent his congratulations on the election victory and wished for a cooperative future between Valen and Sordland, signaling a desire to normalize the diplomatic situation between our two countries. This will be the area for the DLC, so we'll be looking forward to that in the future. Grand Duchy of Pales. There's still a lot of monarchies. There was a... if you look at the official history of this world, there was a period of revolution, but there's still a lot of monarchies. There's like a sliver of republicanism growing in the West and in the East, communism to kind of check the ongoing monarchist reign. But in response to growing global tensions, the Arcadian Treaty Organization, an intergovernmental military and economic alliance of 14 countries, led primarily by Arcadia, has issued an expansive report examining the state of human rights worldwide. Amid intensifying nuclear developments and efforts to counteract the expanding influence of the Catalan Security Pact, the ATO's commitment to championing human rights remains unwavering. Well, hold on to the rest of the report, but the games are afoot. Open event information. The Catalan Security Pact represents an alliance of 9 nations anchored by United Catalan aimed at forging integrated defense strategy and enhanced military cooperation as a counterbalance to the ATO. In an effort to expand its geopolitical footprint, CSP has in recent years pursued a policy of influence extension into Marcopa. It seeks to capitalize on alliances with key partners such as Switzerland to confront the challenges posed by the ATO, reflecting its intent to maintain a balanced power dynamic on the global stage. Fair enough. I'm assuming ATO is in a similar position. Let's check them. Yep. About the same. Those are the 2 major factions of the world. We'll have to treat them accordingly. Nice. The report calls attention to the alarmingly low levels of productivity growth in the region of Agland, where there are also high rates of food insecurity and malnutrition and rural poverty in the inner parts of the region. The mayor of Arvry, Eric Neal, reports a lack of adequate infrastructure around Arvry, which seriously undermines the attractiveness of Arvry's investment climate. Foreign investors, particularly from Magnolia, are becoming hesitant to invest in the city. Meanwhile, according to the data published by the National Business Council, around 90% of a company's total expenditures in ag land is absorbed by logistic costs, which while in peer regions, this figure is below 10%. So, infrastructure. The latest marine traffic shows that the port of Lacavan is no longer the busiest of the Maricopa continent, falling behind to the 3rd position. While this is a negative indicator for our administration, Lacavan still has the potential to shine again as a major trading center. And we know that'll be a part of our economic options when we get to that part. Check the papers. A fair representation. The Lone Star campaign bill has once again taken center stage in the Grand National Assembly. The bill, first proposed during the Alfonso presidency, has been put on hold due to the 1953 election, but has now been resurrected under President Anton Rayne. The proposed amendments ensure a more proportional allocation of public funds, more accurately reflecting a party's influence within the legislative body. President Anton Rayne. Sordland today. The first congratulations came from the Nazis, followed by PFJP. In Sordland, a new era for Sordland, and a new era begins for Sordland, and it holds many economic questions that will need to be answered by President Anton Rayne. Our top economic analyst, with consultation from the National Business Council, has released a comprehensive report on the performance of the past 20 years. A certain section of the report stands out. The last 2 4-year plans of the plan doctrine created a budget deficit and a clear reduction of the industrial production output. This was specifically due to mismanagement and inefficient bureaucracy. The year-to-year growth, budget balance, and production index values indicate that the 2 most productive consecutive years have been when the privatization program of Alfonso began in 1949. Our editorial team, with the help of experts like Mikhail Alvin and Edith Agnog, have come to the conclusion that the recession was not actually caused by Alphonsonomics, but by the drastic obstructions of state executives hindering the plan. Again, this is a more conservative outtake, and we're considering a planned economy, but it doesn't have to be, and this is where we're going to have to do some thinking and strategizing. We can do state capitalism. We can put together an economy that's planned, but have free market principles. But then what kind of government would that reflect in the larger world? Would the millennialists be happy with that, or would the Arcasians be okay taking us in? Because technically it is a capitalist system, just controlled. So there's a lot to consider. Like in times, the new assembly begins duty. President Anton Rayne has been elected fourth president of Sordland in the 7th Swordish elections. The United Sordland Party has won the election on Sunday with just over 37% of the vote, while Franz Richter, the leader of the People's Freedom and Justice Party, could gain just over 20%. That's just the outlining of the election. The radical. How many times will people fall for the same trap? I'm going to enjoy reading the radical this particular playthrough. I feel like it's going to be very entertaining. We've seen this before with Colonel Saul, who supposedly saved his country and brought stability at a time of chaos. His stability, however, meant a life of oppression. Any opposing voices were silenced and many were persecuted. Next was Alfonso, who was elected as a liberal reformer to bring change to the USP and Sordland. Seeing his unfortunate inability, his own cabinet resigned. As the third USP candidate becomes president, it's high time to realize that real change won't come from their party. We will keep that in mind. I think we're missing the... Oh, there it is. There's the overview screen. We have a lot of work to do. As normal. Let's kind of blitz through our first day. Well, blitz is not accurate, but let's do this. In a recent update from Holsworth, the mayor expressed growing concerns about escalating traffic congestion linked to the city's burgeoning population and rapid urban expansion. A logistics report pinpointed the significant increase in traffic volume and subsequent slowing of transportation routes as the capital's most pressing issues. Of course. The General Staff convened right after the election to congratulate our victory. All branches of the Swordish Armed Forces were represented in the meeting that took place at Camp Strong Arm with massive security measures. The chief of the armed forces, Vulcan Kruger, made a public press statement highlighting the increasing chances of military confrontation in eastern Maricopa and requested support to strengthen the military. Our budget is +7. I imagine no one won't last. Call it a hunch. But we're going to take a hell of a dip when that happens. All right, let's have our initial briefings, and we'll call it a day, I think. Peter Vector arrived a couple of minutes early and sat across from me. He was struggling to hold back his smile. We did it, Anton. We won. Finally. All those years with our noses to the grindstone paid off. Peter's eyes sparkled. The strain of the past months had put a damper on his usual rakish charm, but today he was looking and acting more like his old self. He loosened his tie and undid the top 2 buttons of his shirt. Enjoying the new secretary I picked out for you? Thought you'd appreciate her gorgeous set of talents. It's a shame the rest of your staff aren't as easy on the eyes. He gestured to the slightest paunch that protruded over his waistband. But hey, back in university, did you ever imagine we would be sitting here in the Maroon Palace? We have to celebrate this great victory. Let's celebrate it. I got my hands on something special for us. An Ellery Maroon, 30-year-old. I opened the expensive bottle of whiskey and poured it into 2 glasses I prepared. The exquisite smell filled the room immediately. 1924. That was my freshman year. Also the year after the revolution. Very difficult times, to be honest. But this smells like heaven. The future awaits, Peter. I raised my glass and toasted it with Peter before smelling the whiskey and taking a sip. The sweet vanilla tone combined with an oaky taste developed into a lingering smokiness. Peter really seemed to be enjoying himself. What a taste. This is how we should start all meetings, Anton. We could, but maybe we shouldn't. Maybe not, but thanks for the drink. This is really amazing. The door swung open and Lucian Glade, how did I pronounce it last time? A chief strategist walked in. He was a compact man with sharp, bird-like features. After briefly surveying the room from wall to wall, he sat down, poured a glass of water, and opened his briefcase in a series of quick, graceful movements. Gentlemen, the tall cage clock in the room struck 3 o'clock. Damn, you're exactly on time. Hello, Peter. Lucian then turned to me. He very slightly bowed his head. Lucian, how are you? I'm ready and able, sir. Now this is where things really get interesting. We'll see what we do in certain events. If you've never seen Suzerain before and you didn't see our first playthrough, again it'll be linked. There are some events there that we'll see how Lucian's hand plays. But it could be very interesting to see how well we do with him this time around. Lucian spoke in soft clipped tones that immediately drew your attention towards what he had to say. Peter and I waited for him to proceed. Let's start by evaluating our current situation. The majority of the Swordless people demand change. They're more concerned about the economy than the Constitution, but they blame the system for their problems. People are losing their trust in our democracy. Why do you think radicals like Bernard Circus are becoming more popular? Everyone's expecting us to bring the change the last government did not. Franz Richter, leader of the Reformers, believes that true change can only be accomplished by transferring some of our powers to the Assembly. I will move into the details of their demands shortly. We need to listen to the people if we want to serve this country. That's exactly what we campaign for. Wow, my voice is acting some kind of way all of a sudden. That's exactly what we campaigned for. A true change that will move the country forward. We will need many allies against the old guard in this government. Mr. Richter managed to persuade many members of the Assembly to give their support for drafting a new constitution. Reformist politicians are quickly increasing in number. While the reformist wing inside our party is still a minority, they could have a tripartisan majority in the Assembly, especially if they unite under Franz Richter. The USP reformists are willing to agree that we need change, but we should be in charge. We can't let the PFJP leadership take the spotlight on us. The reformist demands are clear. They want to limit the president's veto power, ensure that the Supreme Court is independent, and take away the court's right to vote on constitutional amendments. We must listen to their demands, otherwise we're no different than the previous administrations. I agree. We can't ignore the winds of change, after all. The old guard will do its best to preserve the Constitution. Chief Justice Hawker and his allied judges have a great influence over the Supreme Court, which will be tough to break. The court also has the final say over constitutional legislation. Without their approval, we cannot even change it. We need a comprehensive bill to balance the power structure more fairly. I agree. The old guard won't like this stuff. A comprehensive reform that will make the reformists happy would mean maintaining a balance between all branches of government. Which means removing your absolute veto as well. The reformist demands that all loopholes in the Constitution are closed. We can't underestimate the situation. We can figure it out. Our party still holds 130 out of the 250 seats in the Assembly. We've got the power. However, to reform the Constitution, we must receive a 2/3 majority in the Grand National Assembly, which is 166 votes, and a simple majority in the Supreme Court, that equates to 6 votes. After we have settled on how to proceed, we will need to talk with our party leaders. Our first goal must be to get the 150 signatures needed to start the process. Following the green light from the USP, we will reach out to the other party leaders to see if they will back our draft. The last step is to convince the justices of the court. The entire process will take a long time, but we must start working with a reform committee to evaluate all possibilities for a new constitution as soon as possible. I did promise. We will write a more democratic constitution with the reformists. That's what we've been preparing for internally. Don't forget that promise is what God has selected. The key thing here will be strengthening the power of the assembly, which we already lead with a majority. Peter nodded in agreement. Yes, the divisions of power need to be rebalanced for a better Sordland. According to the internal draft we made with the reformists, there are two changes for the Constitution that are not open for their discussion. We should open its document. First, the Supreme Court will no longer vote on constitutional amendments. Second, the President's absolute veto will be taken away. This can be replaced with a limited veto system by fixing the current loopholes. I have no problems with these clauses. Let's work with the reformist. Sir? Lucia nodded. We will form a reform committee together with all parties and start reaching out to all the stakeholders in the Assembly and the court for a new constitution. By later in the year, we should have an idea of the reform content of what the other parties want. Lucian took notes. Another important group. We must be aware of the Luxembourg group. The oligarchs convene under this organization to influence economic policies. Conrad led it for a long time before falling ill. The new leader is Mr. Walter Tusk. According to reports, some members of the National Business Council are in their pockets. Tusk and the group will surely try to bribe us in exchange for special economic protections. Some things never change. I will enter a dialogue with them eventually. We'll need to be diplomatic. Wise approach. It's good to understand and see if we can reach middle ground. We should look at Peter. As far as I know, Marcel Caranti has some strong ties to this group. His influence could definitely be an asset to us, but I'm sure he'll want something in return. The group's influence is an important force, one that we should use to our administration's advantage. If we can get them to side with us, it all depends on what benefits we can offer and what the leader wants. We need to tread carefully on all sides with all power players to survive our term. I need to underline the seriousness of the situation. The military and the general staff are a powerful element in the state, and as history tells us, a dangerous one too. We do have some room to make structural changes, by reducing their budget, for example, but it is quite limited. I want to receive the advice of the military before making up my mind. It is sound to listen to them, but they have very biased and narrow opinions. Nationalism clouds their minds. General Kruger is a specter of the past. Defense Minister Joseph Lancy is more loyal to us compared to General Kruger, a fact that obviously can change with our actions. Either way, I see a potential rift between the two since they are clearly of different minds. If we act strongly against the military, both of those guys will unite against us. I agree with Lucian. We need to tread carefully here. Lucian looked at his watch. Well then, gentlemen, precisely 30 minutes. This concludes our political briefing for today. Our next meeting will be about our media strategy. Talk to you soon, sir. I will keep in touch. See you both at the next meeting. A lot going on here in this section. Okay. I think it would be wise. That's what I imagine Parliament to look like in this world. Fantastic. And the government bench is right up front. Anyway, I'm going to go get a drink of water. I think I need it. And we'll be back to continue our first day. And start to try and narrow down our political ideology as we move forward. Like the video if you've enjoyed it so far. Subscribe to the channel if you have not done so. And again, leave your comments in. Should we go autocrat? Should we go millennialist communist? State capitalism? What are your thoughts for our political strategy moving forward? This won't be a day-to-day series because I've already done a day-to-day series on this. So we'll just take it in stride and see where we go from there. And again, there will be some comments in the near future about the future of the channel and what to expect from VNs Now. But until then, I will catch you in the next one.